Let's play. Ryu.
Hey, I was waiting for you.
Alright, so starting up Street Fighter V, I kind of noticed that the little training intro sequence they give you is a little lackluster, and they don't describe too much. They kind of just show off the new features of 5 and other things, but they miss kind of a big, a large amount of stuff that you should know if you were to pick up this game. So you'll notice too, I've kind of started out with Ryu because, I mean, he's the first character your cursor lands on. He's a great character to learn the game with because he can utilize most, if not all, of the systems of Street Fighter. And he's, you know, Mr. Street Fighter, so he's fairly basic. But at the same time can be fairly advanced and used at all levels of play. So, excuse me. First thing I want to go over is really why you should even be interested in a new tutorial in the first place. So I know a lot of people, especially friends of mine, acquaintances of mine, when you talk to them about fighting games, they tend to talk about, you know, button mashing and how good they are with certain characters and all this other stuff that, you know, doesn't really mean too much in the long run, but it's great for, you know, more casual players or people that really don't have an interest in pursuing Street Fighter as a bigger interest, more just a smaller hobby. So really this tutorial is more aimed at, you know, people who are picking up the game to try and get better. That's kind of why I titled it From Beginner to Beginner, because I've played a ton of Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 2 HDR, tons of different stuff, but I've never actually taken the game as far as I really think I could. So I just wanted to kind of go over some stuff to see if you know, for people that are making the transition from, just like I am, making the transition from playing in a basement with your friends to, you know, maybe going out to tournaments and playing with other people. So first things first, again, I chose Ryu for a reason. He's going to kind of be who I'm going to go through this tutorial with. And yeah, alright, so let's get started. So you'll notice first, too, because I kind of wanted to go over the basic system mechanics as well. You have a health bar, which is up at the top, the green bar. You have a bar beneath that, which is called the stun gauge, which I'll go over in a second. You have your V-trigger gauge on the bottom, or your V gauge, and your critical gauge, or your super bar. So, I mean, the main goal of most, if not all, fighting games is to reduce your opponent's life to 0. And that's usually done through attacks. So you can see I'm punching Ken, and his health bar is going down. It's being replaced by a red line, and then the red line disappears, and it's training mode, so his health comes back, but that's one way to do damage to a character. But this game has an interesting mechanic where if you take damage while blocking, and let me get him to guard all, you'll actually take a little bit of damage, and you can see he's kind of losing not a lot of life, but he's losing a little bit of life. And that's called gray life. So you can lose damage in one of two ways. You can lose, you know, regular life by getting punched in the face while not blocking. While you're blocking, you accumulate gray life. Now, gray life comes back over the course of a match if you're not taking damage, or sorry, if you're not getting hit, or if you manage to, like, let's say I was to throw Ken. Sorry, a little early. If you manage to keep the pressure off for long enough, the gray life will start to come back. The V-trigger, on the other hand, is a new mechanic to Street Fighter V. Where is the... There they are. So I'm going to set all of everything to normal so that nothing comes back. And then we'll restart it. Okay, so the V gauge is affected by a couple things, but your V gauge primarily is affected by what's called the V skill, which is unique to every character. Every character has their own V skill that does something different. For Ryu, it's this. It doesn't look like I'm doing anything. It looks kind of like, you know, Ryu's taking a giant fart, but his V skill is used not necessarily as a parry, not like a Street Fighter 3 parry. It's more of an intercept, so it takes a little bit of time to start up, and then it's definitely only active for a certain amount of time. And then it finishes, and you can be hit both on the start of the animation and the end of the animation. It's really in the middle that you kind of want to intercept attacks. So, like, let's say I'll have Ken throw a... Where's the... Huh. A little different on PS4 than it is on PC. There we go. Okay. Action recording settings. So I'm just going to have Ken throw something. Hang on. No! Give me... Again, I'm glad I titled this from beginner to beginner. Okay. There we go. Just Ken to throw a fireball. Okay. So you can see, before, or if I mess it up, I take damage. If you hit it at the right time, he'll block it. If you hit it too late, you take damage, and if you hit it too early, you also take a little bit of damage. But, if you hit it just at the right time, Ryu will intercept, and I'm only going to call it that because it doesn't really work the same way as a parry does, attacks. That doesn't just work for fireballs, it works for most everything in the game, with the exception of grabs and counter command grabs, things like that. But anything really that'll hit Ryu, he can intercept. And that'll fill up his V trigger, which can be used for a couple different things. Namely, it's his Denjin mode, which is used by hitting heavy punch and heavy kick. And what that'll do is, you can see the bar will start to go down. Ryu can now do different stuff. His attacks do a little bit more damage, have a little bit more stun. I'm going to go over that a little bit more in a bit, but just to kind of, you know, get everybody acquainted with the different gauges. And then the gauge on the bottom is the critical gauge, or the super bar, or the super gauge, or whatever you want to call it. But in this game, it's the critical gauge. Now that's filled up by doing pretty much everything. Attacks, it gets filled up by taking damage. It gets especially filled up when you land special moves. You can even fill it up with moves that don't land, like a little bit of like Tatsu in the air. It's still filling up the gauge even when I'm not hitting Ken. And same thing too, if attacks are blocked, you'll also still get that gauge back. What else? Oh, the stun gauge. Okay. So, the stun gauge is visible in Street Fighter V. It wasn't visible in 4, it was visible in 3. But the stun gauge is a meter that determines how close you are to getting stunned, which is kind of an apt name for a gauge. But if you hit someone enough, I'm just going to kind of punch Ken for a little bit. How dare you copy my moves, you son of a... Alright. So you can see, you've hit Ken enough, the bar fills up, you get a stun. So the other character can't move, they can't do actions until they break out. This also gives you the opportunity to kind of like punch them some more, but after a hit or two, it'll go away. Not considering you're doing a combo, but after just a single hit, they'll be unstunned. So even if you go, whoo, he's out of stun. But yeah. So those are just, you know, kind of the basic ways that the gauges work. Now, as far as the mindset, because now I've kind of gone over all the system mechanics and all the different things that are new to Street Fighter V, with the exception of crush counters, which I'll get into a little bit later when I do the next part of this. But I really more want to talk about the mindset of someone who's getting into competitive fighting games as a whole. Not just Street Fighter, but really anything in general. Now, my play history doesn't just include Street Fighter. I've also played Smash, Injustice, Persona, pretty much every fighting game under the sun that has come out, I've played to some extent. But again, I've never, you know, taken the big leap into competitive gameplay. I've been to small tournaments. I've definitely had tournaments with my friends. But as far as, you know, getting out, going to visit, you know, locations and fighting other people that I, you know, may not know, that has, you know, maybe only happened once or twice. You know, you go to a convention, you find a small tournament for, like, Tekken, let's say, or Street Fighter, and you know, go, yeah, I play Tekken all the time, or I play Street Fighter all the time. I'll totally kick some ass. Well, you know, I got news for you. Unless you're, I guess, Snake Eyes, really, because he's the only player I've ever heard that has, you know, come out of a non-tournament setting, entered a tournament setting, and done extremely well, you most likely are going to lose a lot. And that's, you know, kind of a big thing with getting into fighting games, is losing, learning how to lose, understanding what a loss, you know, means to you as a player, things of that nature. But, you know, getting comfortable with losing, getting comfortable with understanding that one loss is not going to end your fighting game career. It's not going to end, you know, you're not going to go home and, like, commit seppuku because you lost, or you're not going to, you know, go home and cry. And, oh, you might go home and cry, but the big thing is that, you know, losing is not the end of everything, especially when you're not in a tournament setting. So don't be afraid to go into situations where you think you might lose. Because, and I'll tell you, you know, from experience, again, beginner to beginner, losing is definitely the best way to learn. And just as an example, if I had a friend over and they've never picked up the game, and let's say I just hit there and I hard punch them in the face forever, I'm never going to learn anything. They're not challenging me. I'm not, this isn't like a learning experience. I'm just beating someone up, and, you know, I can do that to anybody. I can do that to Ken in training mode, like you're watching me do. But to really get out there and play other people is kind of the best way for you to understand how to lose, really. And you can lose online, of course. You can always hit, you know, the network battle, the ranked mode, go get your ass kicked a couple times. But even then, I would kind of say that you won't really learn too much from that, especially not quickly. It's not a very efficient way to learn. You're being thrown at, you know, however many characters. In Street Fighter 4, it was like 40 almost characters, maybe more. In this game, it's only 16, so it's a little bit different. But, you know, learning how to play your character, especially in different matchups, is difficult, especially online. And like I said, you can learn small things, you can learn here and there how to do stuff, but, you know, if you go online and you play against a really good Nikali, and, you know, that Nikali is the hardest Nikali you've ever played, and he beats the hell out of you, and you have no idea why. And you immediately jump back online, and you go to your quick match, and, oh, well, you know, now you're fighting Ken. Well, now you have to think of a different strategy for a different character. It's not efficient. It doesn't work as well as it could. So I will say this, though. Losing is a part of the game. Losing will happen. Again, unless you're some sort of masterful, amazing like you're Ryu in real life type good at Street Fighter, which, you know, hopefully you won't. Hopefully I won't run into you at a tournament. You know, you'll whip out the headband and that'll be it for me. But, yeah. So, losing is definitely a big part of the game. It's always winning, but losing more so than winning, because losing will teach you things. Losing will help you understand how to get better, which is really the tone I want to set for this particular set of tutorials that I'm going to do. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for the how to suck part, basically. So now that I've covered the kind of the basic system, gauges, mechanics, so on and so forth, I want to go over how to punch, kick, do attacks, do anything really. So I'm playing on pad right now. I primarily play on stick, but, you know, regardless, it's essentially the same thing. You're not really advantageous either way, whether you're playing on stick or whether you're playing with a pad. And if you don't believe me, I would definitely go and watch the newest Excellent Adventure. Well, not the newest, because the newest one has combo theme, but the newest Excellent Adventures of Gutex and Mike Ross, where they have Pi Smug on, and you'll notice that both Gutex and Mike play with arcade sticks or fight sticks, and they, you know, win. and then they will give Smug a controller, and Smug will also win. All three of them are very good, especially compared to me. But, you know, it doesn't necessarily matter what you have in your hand. And again, another player, you get Snake Eyes too, is also a pad player. So there's no real advantage either way. Although I will say this, and I did hear this from I think it was Eris, on Eris's channel. He made a really good point that you can play on pad, you know, all you want, but to really learn how to play on stick will open up a lot more opportunities for you as a player, especially if you intend to make Street Fighter a much more prevalent part of your competitive fighting game career. The example he used was that, you know, playing on pad is all well and good. Some of the top players play on pad in a lot of different fighting games, but if you know, like, let's say, for example, go to Japan, and you decide, you know, you want to go play in an arcade with, like, I don't know, Punko, Momochi, you know, top Street Fighter players. You sit down in an arcade, you're going to play with an arcade stick. You can't, you know, bring your Xbox controller to, like, Taito Station and plug it in, and it's not how it works. So, really, there's no real clear advantage to playing with pad or stick, but with stick, it'll be a lot easier to make the transition to playing some of the best players in the world, especially if you travel. But again, you know, it's really more of a preference thing. You can do well either way. But okay, so we'll reset here. All right, so Ryu. Ryu is well, like I said before, he's a fairly basic character. He's got punches, he's got kicks, he's got all kinds of crazy stuff. Let me actually turn on the key display and the input display. Alright, so now, turn on the key display so you can see all the buttons that I'm hitting on the left there. You can actually also see the damage that I do on the top right. Stun and how many hits are in my combo. Things of that nature, so you can kind of follow along even if I'm not calling out exactly what I'm doing. Which most likely I will be. So, you'll notice too that as I hit different buttons, different things happen. You've got different attacks. So, in Street Fighter, there are 3 punch buttons. You get light, medium, and heavy. And there are 3 kick buttons. Also, light, medium, and heavy. Now, these buttons will do the same attacks regardless of how far away you are from your opponent, which is new to Street Fighter V. Other games used to have close attacks, far attacks, in the middle attacks, but that's not something you have to worry about. They've really, you know, simplified that system. So if I hit light punch out here, it does a little elbow. If I hit light punch right in Ken's face, it does a little elbow. It's the same attack regardless of how far away you are. Now, that does not count for what are called command normals. Those attacks are done by hitting pressing a direction and an attack button. So those attacks will do the same. Those buttons will perform the same attacks regardless of how far away you are, just like I said. But the button will change if the character has a command normal assigned to that button. So for Ryu has 3. Ryu has his overhead, which is, I forget if it's called the collarbone breaker, I think? Yeah. Which is done by pressing forward and heavy punch. He also has his solar plexus strike, which is done with heavy punch. So you see heavy punch normally does this. It's done with forward heavy punch, so you hold forward, and then boom, heavy punch, solar plexus strike. Different attack, even though it's the same button, it's a different move. And then he also has his axe kick. So he's got hard kick regularly, and then if you hold back in hard kick, he'll do the axe kick. These attacks have different uses for different things, but I'll go over that in a second. It's more important that you understand that they're there. So again, you have light, medium, and heavy kick, light, medium, and heavy punch, and with Ryu specifically, you have forward and medium punch, forward and hard punch, and then back and hard kick will all give you all different attacks. Oh jeez, my inputs on the side look ridiculous playing on this Xbox controller. Really, one of the most important things to learn about your character, regardless of who you play, whether it's Ryu or Ken or Purple Hair Magoo or whoever you play in whatever fighting game, the most important thing really for you to understand right off the bat is what each button does for your character. Now generally, the button corresponds to each attack will do a different move, but each of those moves has different properties as well. So light attacks are quick, they're fast, they don't do a lot of damage, so I'll punch Ken a couple times. You can see they only do 30 of Ken's health and damage and kick too. But they're quick, they're easy to do. Then medium punches will do slightly more damage, have slightly more range as well. You can see the light punch won't hit, but the medium punch will. But they also take more time. So you'll notice I can, throw out a bunch of these little elbows, but I can only throw out a couple of these punches in the amount of time I can throw out a bunch of elbows. And then you have hard attacks, where hard attacks do more damage than medium attacks and light attacks, but are slower. They have more recovery time, so you're vulnerable for longer after you press a heavy attack button. And generally, in this game, they'll give you what's called a crush counter. Now, different characters have different crush counter buttons, but for Ryu, Ryu's crush counter buttons are heavy punch and heavy kick. It's just notable, and I'll go over that in a second, but it's just notable that his are heavy punch and heavy kick, his heavy attack buttons. Now, you also have the same buttons, with the exception of the command normals, while you're crouching, and jumping as well. So jumping, crouching, they're all different attacks, even though it's the same button. You can see on the left, the yellow foot there is me pressing medium kick. So I'm jumping, yellow foot, standing, yellow foot, crouching, yellow foot. That applies to all buttons. So you got light punch and light kick on the ground. I'll do that backwards. Light punch and light kick on the ground while crouching. Medium punch and medium kick while crouching. Heavy punch and heavy kick while crouching. You also have jumping light punch, jumping light kick, jumping medium punch, jumping medium kick, jumping heavy punch, and jumping heavy kick. These are also the same way as the regular buttons. Regardless of whether you're jumping up, or back, or left, or right, or crouching, or doing whatever, these buttons will do the same thing. So if I jump straight up and hit medium punch, Ryu does a little hoorah to the sky. If I jump back, same thing. If I jump forward, same thing. This is also new to Street Fighter V. Street Fighter 4 used a different system with the jumping attacks, where jumping straight up would give you a different attack than, let's say, jumping forward or jumping back. But in this game, it's all the same. So your jumping heavy kick is the same as jumping forward, backwards, jumping up. It's the same move. Same thing while you're standing. Heavy kick, heavy kick, heavy kick, doesn't matter. You're close, you're far, you're in the middle, same button, same attack. So, aside from that, oh, and also, I almost forgot to mention, the command list will, and I'll go over these in a second too, will also show all of your unique attacks. So you see you have forward medium, forward heavy, and back heavy kick for all of Ryu's command normals. Now, you may be asking yourself, well, hey, I've probably, punched a couple buttons twice, and I've seen this little thing comes up that says combo, kind of like that, to hit. Street Fighter's combo system, or the ability to chain attacks together to do more damage without your opponent being able to really respond, is timing based. Which is a little bit different than some other systems. I know Marvel vs. Capcom 3 uses a little bit of a different system. Not an entirely different system, but you can chain attacks differently in that game than you can in this game. From what I understand, most light attacks are chainable, so you can just hit the button a bunch of times and it doesn't require much timing or a lot of a lot of precision, and you can see the light kick didn't do the same thing. So most light attacks are chainable, with the exception, it looks like, of these crouching kicks and standing kicks. But you can chain the punches to the kicks. So, that's kind of what I wanted to get across, is that light attacks you can chain to do small combos. Now, in previous Street Fighter games, especially Street Fighter 4, you could connect a light attack to a medium attack. From what I understand, most of that has been removed from this game, and the pushback has been increased on light attacks. So you can see as I hit Ken, I move back, and he moves back at the same time. A little bit. Especially on that first hit. So you can see, if you look at the squares on the ground, I'll put Ryu in the middle of the square. Oh, come on. There you go. I moved back a little bit, but I moved Ken back a lot. So this is really to prevent you from sitting there and just light punching your opponent into oblivion. Most attacks, or all attacks really, have what's called pushback, where the more you hit your opponent, the further away they're going to get. So eventually you'll just be punching nothing and kicking nothing. And you can see now Ken is even too far for this attack. But that's really what light attacks are useful for, especially if you're using them in call it combo, but a little bit of a chain. It's just to string a couple light attacks together to push your opponent away. Now you could do things like this too. And you can see, like I said, it's a timing-based system, so it's a 2-hit twice instead of 4-hit. Also because I'm not hitting the button at the right time. There you go, 4 hits. Again, beginner to beginner. I can't stress that enough. But you can do things like that. Now, Capcom has put out a couple posts saying that combos in this game will be slightly easier. So this game runs at 60 frames per second. So that's to say, if you were to take a picture of Street Fighter V, of just the title screen, like if I was to take a picture of Ryu right now, flexing all over Ken. That's right, Ken. You take the flex. Anyway, that there would be 60 of those pictures in 1 second. So each attack, each part of an attack, if I hit a button and then pause the game, so you can see this frozen screen, even though I know the menu's in the way, this frozen screen is 1 frame. Boom, frame. There's 60 of those in 1 second. The tightest link that I'm aware of, because I think they took Nash's out, I'll have to look that up afterwards, is 3 frames, which may not seem like a lot of time, but keep in mind that Street Fighter 4 had 1 frame links, so you had 1/60th of a second to press the button. And Street Fighter 5 had its way around with it, pianoing and plinking and all the special button techniques that I'm not going to go over right now because they're complicated and beginners, don't need to worry about those things as much, especially in this game because they've been removed for the most part. But there were, special execution methods or special input methods that you could use to get around that. But again, it's still, 1/60th of a second. It's not a lot of time. 3/60th of a second is definitely better, and definitely not every combo you do will have a 3-frame, what's called a link, where you attach 2 links together, like that. As you can see, I'm doing medium punch, and then crouching heavy punch, and it says 2 hit on the top left there. Now, I did something earlier too, that I didn't talk about, but I'm going to talk about now, where in the combo that I just did, I stopped the move to do another move. And before I go over that, I'm going to go over what those moves are. So, you can press start at any time, or, I actually don't know what it is on PC, it might be escape. But anyways, you can go to the menu and go to the command list, and you can see right at the top there, the first menu will tell you the special moves. Now, the special moves are a totally different category of move, because special moves are done by inputting a direction and an attack button, just like command normals, but it's not a single direction. So with a command normal, with like the solar plexus strike that Ryu had, it's just forward and medium punch. Now, I actually have a little bit of an interesting kind of take on what this menu looks like. I've had friends ask me what exactly these mean, because it's a little confusing to look at this and you kind of see like, oh, it's a circle with a line on it and then a plus sign and like a fist. You know, what am I looking at? What kind of crazy, you know, magical whatever am I looking at? So imagine you've, you know, gone out to an arcade. Oh, jeez, I don't even know if people that are young enough would even been in arcades. But you can even look down at your controller. Imagine that the top, or that circle thing, is the top of your analog stick, or the top of the ball on an arcade stick, which is actually what it's supposed to represent. So you can see, if you're looking down at your controller or your stick or whatever you have, if you're looking down at a keyboard, I got no analogies for you, unfortunately. But if you're looking down at the keyboard, I'm going to tell you to imagine you're looking down at a controller. Excuse me. That is the top of the analog stick, is what you're looking at on the screen. So you can see that that white line that's going around the circle is where you want to move the stick, whether it's analog stick or an arcade stick or whatever. Now you can see Ryu has 4 special moves. So it's really 3, but one of them you can do in the air. So we'll go over the first one, the most important, the iconic Hadouken. Thanks, Ryu. Now, special moves have different properties from normal moves. So again, you got the Hadouken, and if I go back to the command list, you can see the Shoryuken, and the Tatsumaki Senpu Kyaku, Tatsu, Spin Kick, whatever you want to call it, whatever fancy name you got for it. So you have Hadouken, Shoryuken, and Tatsu. And these are Ryu's 3 special moves. Now they're used for different things. The Fireball, as you can see, is used for ranged gameplay, which is usually referred to as the Fireball game, or zoning, which is a better, you know, kind of broader term for it. He also has the Shoryuken, which is really good for punching people out of the air and doing damage. And you can see the Hadouken only does 60, Shoryuken does 140, so more than double. And this move is, again, it's primarily used for punching people out of the air and interrupting people as you're getting up from the ground when you've been knocked down, like after a throw like this. And you also have the Tatsu, which has a couple different uses, especially in this game. The Tatsu is usually used to, well, for a couple things. One, this move will push your opponent the furthest away from you. So if you do a Shoryuken, they land, you know, kind of far away. If you do a Hadouken, they don't really go anywhere. If you do a Tatsu, especially a hard Tatsu, your opponent goes flying across the screen. So, you know, let me measure this in squares here. Can you go over to that square? Boom, that's 1, 2, 3. So can move 3 whole squares away from that. And again, just for reference, you got the Hadouken, which I'm looking at squares on the ground, by the way. I don't know if I said that before. But Hadouken moves him like 3/4 of a square. Shoryuken will move him like 2 squares. Tatsumaki moves him 3 squares. So this is really good, especially if you want to get your opponent into the corner, which is the most advantageous position for you as the offender. Would be to push them here, because it limits their options, so they can jump up, they have nowhere to jump back, and they can't walk backwards. So you've limited their movement, you can kind of make them predictable. So that's really what Tatsu is good for. It's also good for combos, and especially in this game, like I said before, his Tatsu has some interesting properties. Now, the Shoryuken introduces the concept of invincibility. I'm not sure how many frames of invincibility his Shoryuken has in this particular game, but that's one of the reasons why it's a good option. Well, again, I'll go into that more later, but it's a good option on Wake Up because it'll stop people from doing certain things. So Ryu, when he does his Shoryuken, is invincible for a couple frames. And again, 60 frames a second, so a little, you know, fraction of a second, Ryu is invincible for. Now this is good, especially for, let's say someone jumps in and does like a kick that actually connects. Again, beginner to beginner team. Here, actually, I'll set Ken for it. There we go. You can see Ken kicks me in the face, I get hit, boom. I try to do a Hadouken, I get hit, again, now I'm doing the Shoryuken. So you can see, the kick came out, which is kind of hard to see because it only came out for a fraction of a second, but when you do the Shoryuken, come on Ken, you're slightly invincible. And you can see too, his attack is coming out. If you check on the left, it'll say counter. Or it won't. It did before. But anyways, my point being that the Shoryuken will make you invincible for a short while. Now, in Street Fighter 4, and again, I haven't seen the frame data for this game, so I'm not 100% sure, his Light Punch has the lowest amount of invincibility, and it also travels the shortest distance, so you can see even Ryu's not really jumping very high. His Medium Punch had, again, I'm not entirely sure, I haven't seen the frame data for this game yet, the most invincibility, and then his Hard Shoryuken did the most damage, but had invincibility somewhere between the two, so it wasn't as bad as the Light Shoryuken. It wasn't as good as the Medium Shoryuken in terms of invincibility, but it did more damage than both, and it was better for combos and certain things. Now the Tatsu, just because I know I talked about it before, your special moves also follow the 3 attack thing I was talking about before. So each special move has a light, medium, and heavy version, just like punches and kicks. And it depends on the button that you have to hit to do them. So you have your light Hadouken, which travels kind of slow, your medium Hadouken, which travels a little bit faster, then your hard Hadouken, which travels the fastest. And you can see there's definitely a big difference in speed between the light and the hard Shoryukens. I mean the hard Hadoukens. Listen to Ryu, don't listen to me. Same thing with Shoryuken. So the light Shoryuken will travel the furthest distance vertically, the medium Shoryuken will travel a decent distance, and then the hard Shoryuken will travel even like above the health bar, which is kind of cool, actually. And then the same thing with the Tatsumaki, or the Tatsu. So you have the light version, where you spins once and doesn't travel very far. The medium version, where you spins twice and travels a little bit further. And then the hard one, which he travels really far and spins 3 times. And they all do different amounts of damage, with the exception of the Hadouken. Light, medium, heavy Hadouken all do 60. Light Shoryuken does 100. Medium Shoryuken does 120. You get the point. Now, special moves also have more powerful versions that use up super bars. So you can see at the bottom left, the critical gauge, or the super bar, has little notches in it. Those are to tell you when you have a stock saved up for a powered up super move, or special move, which are called EX attacks, or EX moves. So you can even on the bottom right, it says EX, and it's flashing. So you have, just for example, regular Hadouken. Regular Hadouken hits once, does 60 damage, 100 stun, pushes Ken back a little bit, and, you know, it doesn't travel that fast. With the light version, travels faster with the heavy version, so on and so forth. Now, the EX version hits twice, does 100 damage and 150 stun, and it knocks Ken down. So, just again for comparison. Regular Hadouken, 60 damage, 100 stun, pushes Ken back. Oh, hang on, get it. Silly me. Okay. or the training mountains. Hard Hadouken does 60 damage, 100 stun, pushes Ken back. EX Hadouken does 100 damage, hits twice, does 150 stun, and it knocks Ken down. So again, back, down. Now, each of Ryu's different moves have different properties that change. So you have Shoryuken, and then EX Shoryuken, which hits twice and can juggle. Which, by juggle, I mean it can pick opponents up after they've been knocked in the air, which is another system that the game uses. So, for example, actually this is kind of a good segue into the EX Tatsumaki. The EX Tatsu does a little bit more damage, a little bit more stun, but what's cool about the EX Tatsu is that it pops your opponent up in the air for a second, so you can do that. Which is, I mean, it looks awesome, don't get me wrong. But Ryu's Super Bar is generally better spent elsewhere. And I'll explain that in a second. So again, you got special moves, EX special moves of different types. And then you have light, medium, heavy versions of each special move. Now Ryu's fourth special move that I said was actually another move is the same Tatsumaki, but it's done in the air. Now this attack is good for covering space, especially if you want to get in faster. It's a little difficult to time for it to actually hit your opponent. But it can. So out of the air, you can hit someone on the ground with a Tatsumaki. Now in old Street Fighter games, this used to hit from behind. I don't think it does in this version anymore. Yeah, okay, it doesn't. Yeah. You can see the Ryu's leg is going through Ken, but it's not actually hurting him. So this attack does damage from the front, is really what I wanted to get out of that. Come on, Ryu. Work with me. There we go. Okay. Now this also has the EX version in the air, which looks really cool when you can hit someone with it. Oh, come on. There we go. So I'll set the dummy to jump so you can see this cool, awesome move. Boom! Air combo. Haha, Shades Marvel 3. Anyway, so yeah, so the EX Tatsu can do a juggle in the air as well, which is super cool and potentially my favorite thing ever in Street Fighter. What next? What next? Oh, the difference is also with his Denjin mode too. So I'll go over Ryu's. I went over his V skill already. I'm gonna go over his V trigger now. So Ryu's V trigger adds stun to all of his attacks. So you can see it did 150 before, and is 180 now. But Ryu's V trigger also changes his fireballs, so you can charge them in V trigger now. Boom! Awesome sauce. So regular, EX, V trigger, and super 3-hit electric fireball. Does a lot of stun, does a decent amount of damage. Now this will also guard break. So you can see Ken's gonna block a Hadouken. I'm gonna make him eat a charged one. And then boom, starts broken. So I can hit him, even though he's on guard all. It's an interesting mechanic. I actually really like Denjin mode for Ryu. It makes him a lot better of a zoner. And it makes his fireballs have lightning, which is, you know, awesome. But, yeah. So, I got the special moves, normal moves. What else? Oh, his throw. Okay, so throws are used for a couple different things, but if just we're talking about offense here, throws are usually used for breaking guards. So someone will block, and you're like, damn, I really wish I could hit him, especially after doing a little bit of blocking or a little bit of great life damage by punching them while blocking. Well, good news, you can. If you have a friend that likes to do what's called turtling, just sit in the back and do not much and annoy you by sitting there, and you just want to hit them and you can't, well, you can throw them. And then boom! Throws in this game are dangerous for a couple of reasons. One, because they negate guarding. But two, since blocking builds up gray life damage, if you make your opponent eat a couple hits, especially hard punches and hard kicks and stuff like that, and then throw them, look at how much life that took off. That's ridiculous. And throws do a decent amount of damage anyway. The throw did the same amount of damage as the hard Shoryuken did at 104, or where'd it go? I'll just go with the back throw, sorry. At 140 damage. That's the same amount as the hard Shoryuken. Which is quite a lot. But again, remember, you can build up a little bit of gray life, kicking them, and then boom. Now it says 120 damage, but that's not accounting for the gray life damage, but I can assure you, it goes away. You lose that gray life. It is gone after you eat a throw. Or any attack for that matter, really. But again, if you have someone who's just guarding and blocking and not doing too much, not uppercutting, throw works wonders, especially at guarding opponents. So yeah, so that covers Ryu's normal attacks, his V skill, his V trigger, his special moves, throws. What am I missing? Oh, the crush counter system. Okay, good, since we're talking about offense. So, if you hit someone, or actually, let me kind of explain the structure of an attack first. That's a little bit better. So, in Street Fighter, your attacks are broken up into three parts. They have a startup, an active part, and they have recovery. So, let's just take the heavy punch for example, just because it's slow and you can see it. Or the heavy kick, really. The heavy kick's a little bit better. So you can see, as Ryu does the move, he has to take a little bit of time to lift his leg up. And you can see there, my leg is touching Ken, but it's not hitting him in the corner over there on the right, even though it's hard to see with the pause screen. And then boom, Ken's being hit. That's the active part. Now Ryu has to pull his leg back. And again, I know the pause screen is in the way, but you can kind of see in the corner there, Ryu is moving his leg back into position. And that's a little bit of a better view. So again, you have the startup. Startup, so leg's going out. Active, leg is hitting Ken, and then recovery, where Ryu has to pull his leg back before he can do another move. So you can see, I'll try it. I'll go over that too in a second. But I'll try to do some other things. So I'll try to do like a Tatsumaki, I'll hit a bunch of buttons. Nothing comes out while he's pulling his leg back. If you hit an opponent in the beginning of the startup part of their move, so right there, if I was to get hit, and in this game there are some different things, but just for a basic example, Ryu's startup animation, if you get hit during that, you'll get what's called a counter. Now, this game has and you'll see it too, it'll pop up on the left, it'll say counter. Ooh, counter. Now counters do a little bit more damage and a little bit more stun as well. So if you put them on normal, it does 60 damage and 100 stun. If you counter, it does 72 damage and 120 stun. It also, and again, I don't want to talk too much about frames other than you knowing that the game runs at 60 frames per second. It also increases the amount of time you have to do another move afterwards. So let's say you have a hard combo that you do. And it's one of those 3-frame combos, or 3/60th of a second, that intimidating super big or super small amount of time you have to do the combo. This will increase the window that you have to make it more than 3 frames. So let's say, and I know this isn't, again, I haven't seen the frame data for this game yet, but it would add frames on, so you could do things afterwards. So, what's a particularly hard combo for Ryu? I'll just use the other one that I have for example. So this combo, standing medium punch, crouching heavy punch. You can see if I do it a little late, it'll still hit Ken because he's not blocking, but it won't actually have a combo counter on the side. If you put it on counter, you have a little bit more time. And I'm talking, you know, 2 extra 60ths or so of a second. But certain attacks will give you a gigantic, tremendously large window to follow up. These are called crush counters. So you saw a regular counter, just a little, you know, it's a little bit more damage, a little bit more stun. And then there's this. Just Ken spinning around, he doesn't know what's going on. Bam, I just rocked his world. He's out of his mind. It's crazy. You could do things out of a crush counter that you couldn't do normally out of a regular move. So again, I'll take it off just so you can see the difference. So here's Ryu's heavy kick. I can't combo off of it. I can't do anything extra. I can't do anything crazy. No. If I do the crush counter version, you can do this. Oh, let me get that to actually be a combo. Come on, Ken. Whoa. Look at all that damage. Look at all that life. Look at that. 318 damage and 500. That's more than half of his stun bar off of that one attack. So Ryu has the heavy kick crush counter, which will give you a gigantic window to follow up with attacks. And he's also got the heavy punch crush counter, which is a little bit different. The heavy punch crush counter knocks down. It's a little hard to follow up on, but Ryu, and another good segue, Ryu has what is called a target combo. I'm not sure if they changed the name in this game. Never mind. It might have to be called a target combo. Let me check. It doesn't have a name, but we'll call it a target combo. So, I said before that combos were timing based, like that one. Ryu also has a combo that you can do just by inputting a series of buttons in order, regardless really of timing. And Ryu's is done by hitting medium punch to heavy kick, and it looks like this. Ooh, that's a combo. You can see on the side I'm kind of just mashing the buttons. There's like 2 medium punches, 3 hard punches, and 3 hard kicks. The target combo is kind of unrelated to timed inputs, which is good. It's especially good if you're a new player and you don't really want to go for these super hard combos, or you don't really know what to do. This is a good go-to combo. Now it does have some weaknesses, which I'll go over in a second, but again, it's a decent go-to combo, especially after a crush counter. But I brought that up because Ryu can follow up with that heavy punch crush counter by finishing the target combo. So from just heavy punch to heavy kick, that will combo. Just like that. And it does a decent amount of damage. Especially for only being 2 normal attacks. Okay. So, I haven't talked about this yet, and I've done it maybe like 1,700 times while I'm doing this. But I'll do it again, so you can see what I'm talking about. Whoa, how'd you do that? You stopped one and then started another, and oh my god, you're doing spin kicks out of crouch kicks, and holy what? Oh my goodness, that's ridiculous. That is what's called a cancel. So, some moves, not all moves, some normal moves, can be canceled into other moves. Now this would remove that recovery part that I was talking about earlier. But unfortunately I can't use heavy kick because heavy kick is not one of those attacks. Good ones to note are crouching medium kick into Hadouken. This is kind of like the Ryu combo. This is totally brutal. And crouching medium punch. Now there are others, but those are good starting ones to use. So crouching medium punch and crouching medium hit can be canceled into a special move by doing the special move immediately after pressing the button. So not 100 years later, not while you're doing it. Actually, you can do it while you do it. It needs to be pressed within a certain amount of time of the attack hitting the opponent. And that will actually cancel the rest of the attack. Like that. So rather than Ryu having to pull his whole arm back and then doing the kick, or then doing the top two, you can just go, ooh, or you could sure you can, that's cool, just use the controller. Ooh, there you go. So you can cancel certain attacks. Now, it's different for every character. Different characters have different attacks they can cancel. Some characters can even cancel the target combos into attacks, or into special moves. But yeah, that's a really big part of Street Fighter's combo structure, is knowing how to cancel certain moves into other moves that do damage. What else should I go over? From a beginner standpoint. Let's see. Oh, I almost forgot. So, I'm going to set this back to normal so you can see the difference. All this, look at all those crazy fireballs. Anyway, so you'll notice my my critical bar on the bottom is completely empty now. And remember, you can build up critical meter attacks, and by getting hit, and by blocking. But when your critical meter is full, and I did it before by accident, but when your critical meter is full, or your super bar is full, you can do this. Look at all the damage! So that is called critical art. And you can see on the bottom right, the numbers, or on the, sorry, the bottom left, the letters, I'm losing my mind today. The letters have changed from EX to CA for critical art. So, your critical art is generally your most damaging attack. It takes your entire super bar to do, so it can take the entire course of a match to build up. It is not always the best way to spend your resources. I know in Street Fighter V, supers are a lot better than they were in 4. They do a lot more damage, especially for the cost. And unlike Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5, you only have 3 bars to build up. And you can see there's only 2 notches in the side to separate the 3 bars, or in the middle of that bar to separate that bar at the 3 bars. So once you build up 3 bars, you can do your critical art. Like so. Now, Ryu and some of the other characters in this game, especially Nikali, who has by far my favorite non-powered up critical art, but when you go into your V-trigger, for characters that have a transformative V-trigger, which I'll go over that in a second too, I'll switch characters, I'll show you what I'm talking about. Their critical arts change when they're in V-trigger. And you can hear there's a visual effect, there's Ryu shouting different names and crazy stuff. But the big difference I want to note here with Ryu specifically is that Ryu's critical art regularly does no stun whatsoever. I can hit you with this all day and you will not get stunned. A lot of damage, but it does not do a lot of stun at all. The V-trigger powered version, remember his V-trigger gives his attacks extra stun. That also applies to his super, or his critical art. So his critical art now does 300 stun, which I'm going to let the bar drop a little bit. If you look at Ken's stun gauge right under his health bar, look at how much this does. It's a pretty decent chunk, especially considering that it would take me like 3 or 4 punches to get to that much, which would require Ken to not be blocking. It does a decent amount. And you could do it at any time, so regardless of how much V-trigger you have left, I'm sorry, you can do it at any time during your V-trigger. I can just sit here and wait and just throw fireballs, do stuff, do all kinds of crazy stuff. And then right before my V-trigger ends, I can just, there you go, cool. So it doesn't matter how much V-trigger gauge you have left after it's been activated, that will still work as long as your V-trigger is still activated and has not run out. So yeah, so you have your regular critical art, which is Hazuten. And then you have the powered up version when you're in V-trigger mode, or the Denjin version, that does a little bit more damage and actually does stun damage, which the regular one does not do. Alright, so that's most, if not every, basic kind of offensive tactic that Ryu has. What am I forgetting? I might be forgetting something. I think I am. What might be? Oh, okay. So, this isn't really a beginner tactic, but it's important to know. So you can cancel, just like you can with a special move, you can cancel into V-trigger from most moves, if not all of them. See? So now I got... burn this real quick. Okay. There you go. So what this will allow you to do, especially in a combo, is allow you to get to V-trigger safely, for the most part. So, just for example, there you go. So I V-triggered in the middle of a combo, and again, this is not really a beginner thing, but I V-triggered in the middle of a combo, and then continued the combo, but outside of the combo, I'm still in V-trigger. So again, there you go. So still 4 hits, it's still combos, but now I get to walk away from that combo with my V-trigger activated. Now you can still activate V-trigger, wherever you want on the screen, but if you activate V-trigger like right here, and you're not doing anything, and Ken decides, oh hey, Ryu's in V-trigger, I'm just gonna punch him in the face. You will lose time, and I don't mean you'll lose time from your V-trigger, but you will lose time where your V-trigger will be effective. If you're getting hit while you're using your V-trigger, especially as Ryu, it'll still go down. It doesn't stop. I might have forgotten to mention this too. When you do certain actions in V-trigger, it will actually deplete your V-trigger a little bit. So you can see with each one of these Hadoukens losing a little bit of V-trigger over time. And regardless of how much you have left of the V-trigger, using your critical art will take up however much you have. So you can use it regardless of how much you have left, but it'll use up everything. Every little bit of V-trigger that you've got left will be gone. So generally it's not really advisable to do like this. And then immediately burn all of your critical bar and all of your V-trigger bar all in one shot, generally. But yeah, so you can use V-trigger after any normal attack. More examples. You cannot do it after an air attack, and you cannot activate in the air with Ryu. So you can see I'm hitting the buttons on the top left there. Nothing's happening. So you can do this strictly off of crouching and standing attacks, not jumpings. You also can't do it after a throw. You can't cancel a throw into the trigger. You either have to do it before, like that, or after, like this. So just a good way to get into V-trigger with Ryu specifically. Alright, so I've talked a lot about offense, especially, you know, very basic offense, so you just go over what I did. So you got light, medium, heavy punch, light, medium, heavy kick. You also have throw, and then special moves, super moves, and then your V-trigger specials. And then your V-trigger super. And then your V-trigger also. But I'll go over that more when I talk about defense. Or when I talk about special tactics and such. Alright, so now we'll go into basic defense. So the most basic thing you can do in Street Fighter is to block. Now blocking is generally done by just holding back while you're getting attacked. So let me set Ken to do some stuff. And you can see I'm just going to hold back and I'm going to block everything. There you go. So that will block all high attacks. Now, oh, I might have forgotten to mention that as well. Attacks come in 3 types, or 4 types really, if you count throws. They come in low attacks, like this. So when you're crouching and doing, let's say, medium kick, or high kick, light kick, punch, or any of this stuff. These will hit low. So they need to be blocked low. Regular attacks hit high, or medium, I should say. Medium attacks can be blocked while standing. And then you have jump-ins, which will hit, I guess I should call that overhead, really. Yeah, so you would have low, high, and then overhead attacks. Or low, high, jumping. These all need to be blocked in different ways. So high attacks, so just standing like regular punches, can be blocked just by holding back. Low attacks can only be blocked by holding back and down, so low blocking. And jumping attacks can only be blocked while standing up. So if you're crouching and someone hits you with any jumping attack, it will open you up like a can of sardines. You will be vulnerable to combos, to all kinds of crazy shenanigans, to anything if you eat a jumping attack while crouching. It will not block it. Now this also applies to special attacks or certain command normals, like Ryu's collarbone. So this attack will actually hit over the top of the guard. So let's say I'll have Ken do guard all, and I'll have him... Okay, let's do this first. So you can see Ken can block these standing up, but if I do this, Ken has to crouch to block this attack. It's a low attack. Now, if I have Ken crouch, and I do regular attacks, he's fine, but once I do this move, Ken's got to stand back up. Same thing with jumping. Ken's got to get back up. Let me do this for him. Yeah, so Ken's got to get back up to block these. So that's just basic blocking, and what has to be blocked in what way. Now remember, throws cannot be blocked. And there are certain characters, and I'm sure all of you people know, like Zangief, who can just grab you and you kind of have to take it. If you get grabbed, there's really no counter. Once you've been grabbed, or once the opponent already has you in a situation where you're going to be grabbed. But regular throws, you can tech, do what's called a tech. So I'm gonna have Ken try and grab you. And when he does, I am also going to hit grab. And there you go, throw escape. So, if you get grabbed, or if someone tries to attempt to grab, and you hit grab at the same time, you will negate their grab. You'll push them off you. You can see there was a little bit of like a spark. It says throw escape on the side. You get pushed away from each other. It's a good way to break pressure from your opponent. So if you have someone that's consistently punching and punching and punching, and then they go, oh, he's blocking, and they walk up for a throw, and you hit throw at the same time, you'll throw break, or technically. What else? You got blocking, you got throw escaping. Oh, also, this game has a cool way to stop your opponent from just exerting pressure all over you. Called the V reversal. Oh, the V reversal is totally my favorite. So what this will do, and you can look on the bottom left there at the V trigger gauge, is that when you're getting attacked, if you hit forward, well for Ryu, it's forward and heavy punch, you will do what's called V reversal. This only does gray light damage, and you can see on Ken's health bar. I'll pause it just so you can kind of take a look at it. This will only do gray light damage. It cannot kill, even though it's an attack. So if your opponent decides, hey, I got, like a magic pixel of life left, there's nothing left for me, I'm just gonna rush it, Ryu here, and just punch him and do all this crazy stuff. If he can't, do anything, and you do that to try and kill them, it will not kill them. But as you can see on the bottom, it does take up a bar of your V reversal, of your V trigger gauge. But it'll get your opponent off you, which is really what it's good for. Now these aren't perfect. I've definitely seen a lot of situations where people go for their V reversals and the opponent stops pressuring them and they waste the bar and then they eat a super huge punish and all this other crazy stuff. But just keep in mind, that's what V reversals are for. It's for pushing someone off of you that's exerting too much pressure. Alright, so you got basic blocking, stand blocking, crouch blocking. You cannot block in the air. I just thought I'd kind of point that out. Once you jump, you are committed to that jump, and you cannot block. You also cannot reuse V skill in the air, so you can't do the intercept in the air. The other thing that you would really want to worry about on the defensive end of things is anti-airing. Now, this game apparently, doesn't like gravity or physics, I'll say. So most, if not all, the characters can jump like 12 feet in the air multiple times, and it gets them across the screen really fast. And I'm not going to call it the best way to move around, but it's definitely what a lot of new players go for, is the jumping. I've heard quite a few people, especially over Twitch and certain streams, that talk about the fact that, when they pick up new characters, that's really what your go-to thing is, to jump, because you don't really know what you're doing, and jumping is, it gets you really far, and it's kind of intimidating. You got, this 5'9" Japanese buff dude that's jumping 16 feet in the air and coming flying at you, and it's like, oh my god, there's a flying dude, but remember, you are vulnerable when you're in the air, and that's kind of what I'm going to go over now. So I'm just going to have Ken jump, and I did a little bit of this before when I was talking about the Shoryuken, but if someone's jumping in at you, you have a couple options. You can block high if they attack, But you also have a couple other options to knock them out of the air. You have the Shoryuken, which will hit in two different spots. You can hit at the top of the Shoryuken for a little bit of damage, or you can hit at the bottom of the Shoryuken for more damage. You especially want to like wait a little bit and try to hit the Shoryuken as late as possible to get the most damage off of it. You really want to punish people for jumping in this game and just stop them as much as you can. So again, just for effects, top of the Shoryuken, you can see on the top does 60 damage, 150 stun. Bottom of the Shoryuken, even though they're still airborne, does 140 damage and 200 stun. You definitely want to hit them kind of at that sweet spot. Ryu also has options that don't involve special moves. You can use Crushing Heavy Punch that hits above Ryu. It's got a nice hitbox on it. Hitbox being the part of the attack that actually connects with your opponent. Just kind of envision it as a box around Ryu's fist. Just like a 3D, well, I guess in this game it would be a 2D box, but a 2D box around Ryu's fist where his fist will do damage. He also has standing heavy kick, although it's a little bit more difficult, and it's really best used for jump-ins that come at an angle rather than like a straight-up jump. And then Ryu also has air attacks. You can beat someone in the air and do cool stuff like this. Do lots of damage. Oh, it's so my favorite thing ever. Some characters, I know Ryu does not have this, can throw in the air. I know Chun-Li can do this. Zangief can do it with his air special grab. But yeah, so Ryu cannot, was what I was kind of getting at, is that Ryu cannot throw in the air. But some characters can, so it's something you might have to watch out for. So you can block high, you can use any, sort of attack you want, air attack, use it in the air, or, and this is not smart, you can meet someone, and again, this isn't smart, but it is an option, I guess. You can meet someone with a top speed in the air, like that. This is really only if you really, really have a good read on what your opponent is doing. Just because it takes longer to input on the controller than just jumping up and hitting medium punch or light punch or any of the other buttons. You actually have to stop from hitting up, throw the controller back, do all kinds of extra moves. So that's really good if you get a read on your opponent, what they're going to do. But, and I did it before, you can combo into the... You can combo with the regular one too. No, you can't. You only have one hit, not two? Yeah, okay. So you could do that. That's a little bit of a safer way to get the top slot in the air. It definitely looks cool, but your Shoryuken still does more damage than that. That's 130. That's 140. So not a big difference, but again, it's just, you have different options in the air. So now you're probably thinking, well, hey, I've had people jump in at me all the time, and I try to stop them, and I can't stop them every single time because they do different stuff. Which is true. Some people attack, some people will jump into nothing, some people will jump into a low attack. This is just things that you'll learn as you play the game on how to defend against these things and what to expect from your opponent. But remember, you can block air attacks by just holding back, crouching attacks by holding down back, middle attacks, or high attacks by holding either down back or just regular back, and overhead attacks by just holding regular back. And throws, you can escape by hitting throw when your opponent also tries to throw you. What else should I go over? Oh, okay, so defense. So, when I was talking about before, when I said that Shoryuken on Wake Up was a good option, there you go. So now Ken on Wake Up will do a Shoryuken. Or not. There we go. There we go. Okay. So, again, you probably experienced this as well, especially if you're, looking to make the transition into more of a competitive Street Fighter career. Where, you try to, you throw your friend, you knock him down, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go for this crazy cool thing, and then, oh, you got punched in the face by a flaming dragon arm. Well, a lot of new players do that, and I know it's kind of intimidating, especially because you really want to get in there and hit them and go up the face and stuff, and do your best combo ever and show me what you really got, and your opponent just keeps punching you in the face, and they keep uppercutting you with their lid on fire, and you're, salty because you're a shish kebab or whatever. But I'm going to show essentially what's the best option for this. That's it. You just block. So the Shoryuken, when you're getting up, is a decent defensive option only, really, if you think your opponent or know your opponent is going to attack you. Otherwise, I can just do this. And then I block it. And if I block it, you get a crush counter. Crush counter combo. There you go. So you can get punished really ridiculously hard for uppercutting Shoryukening at the wrong time. But again, this all comes with good defense, understanding of match dynamics, and understanding your opponent. A matchup dynamic, sorry, not match dynamics. And understanding your opponent and what they do and what they can do. But Shoryuken is an option for defense on Wake Up, but it is very, I cannot stress this enough, punishable. Oops. That's done. Yeah. At the end, just for reference. Why am I looking bad? Oh, I'm so nice with that controller. There we go. So you can really eat a really large chunk of damage for that. But again, it is an option. It is something to consider. Just, try not to get wrecked too hard. What else on the defensive end? What have I not explained? Well, I can do this. So I talked a lot about in the defensive end about what to do if your opponent jumps in at you. But I didn't talk a lot about what to do once they've decided to stay on the ground, which some people do, some people don't. I'm going to transition over from the offense-defense talk to a little bit of fundamentals. And I'm going to start off with spacing. So, in Street Fighter, you'll notice that there's only one character that is like Mr. Fantastic and can stretch his arms. It's Dawson. But for the other characters that can't, their moves have a certain range that they work at, and a certain range they do not work at. So I can, you know, blow air at Ken over here with my foot all day, and it's not going to hurt him at all. But if I miss that attack because I'm too far, Ken can hit me back. So I'm going to set Ken to do... Oh. That. Okay. So you can see Ken's attack hits me from a certain range. But if I stand back here, it doesn't. Now you can use that to your advantage by doing what's called a counter poke. So you have poking, which, I'll send this back, is what you do when you play the footsie game, which is what is, you know, kind of the loving phrase used for ground combat in Street Fighter. So really the act of throwing out attacks to make sure that your opponent can't jump in all over you and do crazy combos, and just kind of stopping them from really playing offensively against you. So you have someone that's trying to move in and someone that's trying to do all kinds of stuff, and you, whoop, nope, you stay over there, you get away from me, I don't want any, you crazy telemarketers, get out of my house, type stuff. If your opponent tries to do that, and let's say they're too far, kind of like I am from Ken right now, you can do what's called a counter poke, which I would say is definitely an essential part of defense, since you will be in this sort of neutral position most times, where neither player is on offense or defense, really. Because people will be throwing on attacks. You know, you've definitely played against someone that just sits there and like does this, or this, or this, or just like hits buttons all the time, and you're like, I wish they'd stop hitting buttons. Oh my god, what do I do to stop them? And you know, you do the same thing. You show Ryuken, you punch him, you try to hit him back, and sometimes you lose, and you know, you get mad. And you're, oh man, I lost, and all this guy was doing was hitting buttons. Well, I can tell you two things. One, the Shoryuken is a little bit much for that, and two, that's probably because you need to space yourself a little bit better. And I'm not talking about being in the corner. You, as a player, especially as an aspiring competitive player, need to understand the spacing part of the game as well. So you need to understand what moves work at what ranges, and which moves are good for hitting your opponent after they have missed an attack of theirs, of their own. And I'm going to make this part of the defensive section rather than the offensive section, because this is more used for punishing, which is what I would call a defensive action. Okay, just go back to playing it. So you can see Ken's attack still hits me even though I'm blocking, right? But if I do this, I can hit Ken while he's coming back from his move. Like that. So I'm standing just outside of his attack, and then I step in, and then boom. Ken gets hit. But if I stand too close, I get hit. Now, like I said before, you can counter attacks. Not like that. Come on, there you go, reset. Like that. I forgot about that. Forgot about that one. We use low heavy is also a crush counter. But you can kind of see where I'm going with this, is that when Ken misses the attack, you can follow up with your own attack that will make Ken think twice about doing that again, especially if he misses. Like that. So this is more of an exaggerated example. A lot of times people will not be throwing out heavy attacks. I know it's going to be more prevalent in this game than it was in Street Fighter 4 just because of, and other Street Fighters really too, just because of how different light attacks are. So more people will be throwing out mediums and heavies in this game rather than lights. But it's more common for you to see a character's kind of like best spacing attack, which for Ryu in this game, I would say is his either crouching medium kick or standing medium punch. Now I only say standing medium punch, which I know has less range than crouching medium kick, because this game has done something a little weird with Ryu's medium kick. You can kind of see, like, I'm kicking Ken's foot, but it's not making contact. So, Ryu has kind of a weird issue with this, and I'm not really sure why they decided to do this, but Ryu's attack, especially his crouching medium kick, which is, again, from previous games has been his best crouching attack. It's the start of the Ryu combo, the crouching medium kick into fireball. I'm not sure why they went with this. But it's definitely something to note, that Ryu's foot, like, placement doesn't actually show that, like, this is where he hits somebody. But the medium punch does. The medium punch actually hits a little bit ahead of where you might think it would. So you can see you can kind of, like, punch Ken's like, outside of his arm, but if you take a step forward, you're hitting, like, the air around Ken's arm. The only reason why I would say this move is decent for spacing. But again, the medium kick is better because it has longer range. You can also use Ryu's crouching heavy kick for spacing, but I wouldn't just throw this out because it does have a lot of recovery, especially when it's blocked. And just for example, I'll make Ken do his low attack. Okay. There you go. You can see, essentially because that little box that said reversal popped up. You can hit Ken while he's recovering from that move with a very powerful attack. And the same thing goes for Ryu. You kind of want to be careful when you throw this particular attack out for spacing, but other good ones to note are his standing heavy punch, just because it's a crush counter. It hits kind of far. It is a little slow, and it can be comboed into the kick afterwards when you do the crush counter. You can also do some other things after the punch, but I'm just using the kick as an example. Crouching medium punch isn't bad either. But again, just keep in mind that the crouching medium kick thing can be a little hard to get used to, especially for a newer player. I know this is going to be kind of a big complaint of one of my friends in particular, but yeah, so just keep this in mind. Keep the slowness of the crouching heavy kick in mind, and kind of the reliability of this particular punch in mind. But also, again, the standing heavy punch, crouching medium kick, crouching medium punch, and especially his standing medium kick. I'm pretty sure that this still has the effect of raising Ryu's leg, like actually in the game, not just his character model. So this can kind of go over some low attacks, I think. I'm not sure if that's been changed, taken out, just because this game is so new, and I know I haven't done a lot of testing with Ryu yet. But yeah, so again, good things to keep in mind: standing medium kick, crouching medium kick, standing heavy punch, crouching medium punch, standing medium punch. Now, I said before I was going to talk about the weakness of his target combo. It's mostly just the weakness of this attack in particular. So this attack does not hit crouching opponents. So even though it's one of his better crush counters, just because it puts him in one of the most advantageous situations he can be in. It misses on crouching people, so as a spacing tool, I would kind of stay away from this, because heavy punch hits, medium, all this stuff hits on crouching people, but this doesn't. So I know you'd be kind of tempted to throw this out because it'll give you the big super crush counter, but just keep in mind that it doesn't hit crouching opponents, so you might have to be a little careful. And that's really it for a beginner tutorial. So just again, a quick recap. Light, medium, heavy punch, light, medium, heavy kick, special, move, the skill, the trigger, charging up fireballs and stuff, this thing, I guess, which looks really cool, critical art, V-trigger, enhanced critical art, that probably has to be much shorter, target combo, crush counter, and the one I forgot. The not dynamic, the structure of attack, the structure of combos and combo timing, canceling, blocking in general, throw breaks, spacing attacks, and counter poking, as well as aerial attacks, overheads, man normals. Alright, and to finish it off, I will show just a couple combos. I know I've shown a couple, but there are a couple that I haven't shown, so... I know all of these aren't combos. I'm just kind of hitting buttons now. Doesn't work. But anyways, yeah. So hopefully this tutorial by a beginner for beginners will kind of help out a little bit. I know there's a little bit of stuttering. Not stuttering, I'm sorry. A little bit of stopping, a little bit of ums and ahs, and so on and so forth. But hopefully this will help. This is definitely going to get sent to a certain friend of mine immediately so that they can kind of learn how things work without me having to wait until they wake up. Yeah, hopefully this will help some people. Hopefully this will actually kind of set the tone for what the rest of your learning experience in this game will be like. I'm definitely going to recommend that anyone who has watched this video will go check out the Cross Counter site and Cross Counter on YouTube as well, because they do a lot of really good tutorials. I know Gutex in particular is putting out a series right now where he outlines pretty much everything that I did, but he most likely will go into more detail than I can, just really picking up Street Fighter V for the first time after the initial beta back in God knows when. But just keep an eye out on that for tutorials. Also, Befale is not that bad. Who else? And Befale will put videos out on Cross Counter from time to time. make sure also, especially if you're looking to get into competitive Street Fighter, to look up tournaments in your area. Try and see if you can get out to those, because remember I said, you know, losing is really the biggest way to learn, and the best way to lose is against other real people doing other real things. I know I intend to, especially for this game in particular. And yeah, so hopefully this helped, and see you later.